All right, everybody. I'm excited to have Karla Hansen today on the podcast. She is my rep with GraphiStudio, and she's part of the amazing GraphiStudio team here in the United States that provides incredible customer service for their clients. Karla, like her colleagues, is always ready to answer my questions, dumb or not dumb. She's ready. She's Johnny on the spot answering those questions. And when I need help, she takes care of things and she makes sure that all of my products and my customers are happy. Karla, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about photo products.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm quite excited.
Cool. So I know you're in the Midwest. Like, where are you located again?
So many of us will tell you that we're in Minneapolis because people know where Minneapolis, Minnesota is. We are a suburb of the Twin Cities. We are on the east side. We're in a city called Woodbury, Oakdale area.
Okay.
But Minnesota, yes, the snowy
So
state.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. My favorite compliment is when people tell me I don't have a Midwest accent.
There you go. There you go. So as you know, I'm a super fan of GraphiStudio. As anybody that listens to the podcast or follows me in any way, I like use all GraphiStudio products, and they're the provider of everything that I do, and I can't say enough about them. You know, Karla is here today, and we're going to talk Graphi products, but we're also going to talk products in general. And I'm excited to where this is going to go. And because I mean, as a photographer, even now, sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I don't do printing. I do photos. You do printing. Tell me about this, you know? So I want to put it out there that obviously we're going to be talking about GraphiStudio products as we talk today, and I want you to learn a little bit more about their products and everything. But this isn't like a sales pitch for Graphi, even though I think that they're awesome and I think you should go with them. And I'll give Karla an opportunity to talk about Graphi, but I want you to like the listener to hear the intent behind like why you should use different products with your clients. So I want to start by asking, first of all, and I know this is Graphi oriented, but what's the number one product that people purchase from GraphiStudio, and why do you think that is, Karla?
Oh man. I think the number one product that people purchase from GraphiStudio are albums. Honestly, I mean, albums are such a timeless product that you can have. I mean, I remember looking at photo albums back in the day when I was a kid, right? And I mean, they've definitely changed from back then to these luxury, beautiful albums. And I just don't think they're ever going to go out of style. I think it's an amazing way to represent portrait photography, family photography, wedding photography. I mean, there's been so many pet albums I've seen. It's so fun to see people take all of these pictures and create such a fun experience through a book. And I just don't think that's ever going to go away.
No, I agree. And I think every photographer has their own little way of doing sales and doing whatever. And I know there's wall art people who just do wall art and everything. And I always tell people, I question the people that are the wall art people. It's like, well, do you have any add-on? Like, albums are a great add-on to like, hey, you just bought this wall art piece, but you have 50 other photos and you've got this 4-photo collage. What are you going to do with the other 50 photos? An album is a great addition to that thing. And then on the flip side, I've always argued that for the people that are looking for something that's higher value, more volume of photos, the album is a great thing, because some people just don't want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a piece of wall art that just hang on their wall and it's just a few photos, but they want a lot of photos and stuff. So I love to hear that albums are a big thing, because I've heard some photographers go, oh, albums are out of date, nobody cares and all that stuff. And I disagree, because
Yeah, I do too. I think they're as out of date as you make them. And with being able to customize,
and as you sell them.
yeah, I mean, you can customize them in any way that you want. And I've seen so many creative things, and just like, I don't know, clothing, fashion, like things come back into style. So it's fun to see all of the changes and like, I don't know, just the way that people are designing albums right now. You can see different trends and how they're doing
Yeah.
it.
No, totally. And I mean, the thing that's great about Graphi too is just you guys have so many different options for albums, and we'll talk about that a little bit
Blessing and
later.
a curse. But yes.
And no, it is. And that's a blessing and a curse of Graphi just in general. There's so many options and you have to like curtail it down. But but you have so many options. So there's like if in their budget, some of them are budget friendly and some of them are like more the high end luxury stuff. But what I love about it too is from the standpoint of us purchasing the albums, there's not a huge difference between the luxury album price wise, like for the cost of goods, as opposed to like, I hate to use the word quote unquote cheaper,
Hmm.
because it's not cheap, but it's just like
Yeah.
the more economic friendly thing.
Yeah.
So cost of good wise, it's not like I'm going from a $400 book to $1,000 book. And, there's a
Easily.
very similar mix to that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's quite
Um,
funny too, because like our quote unquote cheaper album, it's not that much different than the other ones. What we've done is we've taken the materials and customization overwhelming options and we've taken them away. So we've
great.
only given you certain options to go with to keep your album under X dollar and just help you not be so confused and help your clients not be so confused. And it's just an amazing album. Like people,
Right.
it's
Right.
for we'll get into that, I'm sure, later, but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
great album.
Yeah. So I know you guys deal with photographers all over the spectrum. You got wedding photographers, boudoir photographers, family photographers, dog photographers, landscape photographers, you name it, you guys do it. I've seen the products, I've seen the videos at conferences and stuff like that. I've seen it all, right? So as a family photographer, and I do mainly family and pets, and I know a lot of people that are followers of me do that, or portrait kind of photography. What are
Mhm.
some of the ideal products that you would recommend someone similar to me or similar to a studio like mine,
Yeah.
to offer their clients and not feel like they're overwhelming them?
Yeah. Definitely so, and I know that you do this also, right? Like you have looked at Graphy as a whole and selected the products that you want to offer your clients, right? So right there, you're taking an overwhelming experience for anybody and dwindling it down to help them out. For portrait photographers and family photographers, it's I mean, I have a few products that come to my mind, but it's also like you sell what you love, so it's really also like what you're pushing. I mean, right out of the gate, I wanna say Sue Bryce's collection has some amazing box options that we can do with matted prints on the inside, and
Mhm.
that's just such a classic way to represent portrait photography, and the paper choices that we have in it are amazing. Depending on the photo session though, like maybe you have a lot of these like random fun bloopers that might have happened in the session that are really fun to capture. Those are fun to do in albums, perhaps, right?
Mhm.
Like maybe you want to do this fun storytelling instead because of this experience that happened in your studio that you might have not been planning on. And then obviously our wall art too for our portraits. Like that's what they're there for. They are there to represent the people of our lives that we want to put on a wall because they're important to us.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about wall art, because like one of the things that's really, it's like the blessing and the curse thing about like a place like Graphy, where not every lab is like this. You have
Mhm.
a lot of different options, which is to me is like a really cool thing, because I mean, I've texted you, or I've called you or emailed you. I'm like, hey, I've got this client that wants this really specific thing, and can we do that? And 99% of the time you're like, yes. But sometimes it's just like there is that 1% that's like the no. But there's so many different options that are out there. If I'm a brand new photographer and I'm like, what do I offer for wall art? What
Mhm.
are some of the things that I should be taking into consideration, to whether it should be metal or acrylic or canvas, or I mean, you guys even do leather prints and what you call the Amalfi panels and stuff, which are like a very different kind of style.
Mhm.
But when I'm looking at wall art, like it's like, do I stick with one? Do I have an option of different things? And why would I choose one over the other with my photography?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of wall art options. One of the first things that we do for our onboarding experience is we do require that you have a professional website, right? So one of the first things that I do before we even connect over the phone is I take a look at their website just to kind of get a feel for what their photography style is. Are they shooting like dark and edgy? Is it like fun and super colorful? Like what's their style that I'm just kind of feeling right out of the gate. And then we have that conversation, and I just ask them, like, what do you like? Because what I perceived very well could have been wrong. And so I like to take all of that in and make my recommendations to them, and then also just stay true to what they were looking for. But my goal, and I'm sure I told you this a long time ago, like, my goal is to not overwhelm you.
Right.
So I don't want to talk about all of the products that we can offer, because it's a lot. So I always say, like, let's put one foot forward and get started with, maybe option A, option B, and then we can start looking into option C's and D's and all of the other Z, all the way down to Z options that Graphy offers. Let's kind of move forward with that. So I think us having some guidelines and some starter points to understand is a really great way. For example, our metals. We have 5 different finishes of our metals. There's no reason somebody needs to, like, right out of the gate order all 5 of them. Let's kind of take a look at your work. If you want me to take a look at your images that you might be thinking about printing on a wall art piece, I'm happy to make my recommendations too. But it's all just fitting it to the photographer and their studio, and fitting it to what they want to sell to their clients.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, my recommendation to people is just pick something,
Yeah,
like, you
start with
don't
something.
yeah.
Let's start with
And
one
I
thing.
think and the other thing that I try and tell people, and this is something you and I have had a conversation with, because I went for the longest time of, like, I wanted to do graphy, but I was told by somebody, well, I don't do graphy, it was BS, but whatever. And I wish I would have done graphy a long time ago when I originally thought I wanted to do it. But what I tell people that, like, talk to me about stuff, and you probably can attest to this too, is, like, shop around and find the place that you want to use long term. Because
Mhm.
here's the problem, and I have it even in my studio where I'm slowly trying to get it all out of here, but
Yep.
I have a hodgepodge of different labs that I've used over the years that, I mean, my, unfortunately, not right now, my studio is not 100% graphy, but I want to show these sizes so I don't take the photos down. I just tell the
Mhm.
client, I'm like, we don't offer this style anymore, but I want you to see the size and I want you to see the layout, right? And that's why it's there. But eventually I will replace it with a graphy product. But all that to be said, like, I think there's something to be said about, like, picking something when you first start and being
Mhm.
strategic about what that is, because you don't want to have to go, well, I'm going to do this year, and then next year I'm going to go with this lab, and now you got to go get samples for all that stuff, and then you got
I
to get
know.
samples for all that stuff,
It it's a little overwhelming. I can't tell you how many photographers we have that kinda did that same thing, where they find out about us because of podcasts or trade shows or referrals, and we ask them, like, "Where are you getting your product from?" And they give me a laundry list of places, and they're like, "Well, I get my boxes from here, and I get my acrylics from this, and my metal prints from this other place," and I'm like, "I'm already overwhelmed trying to help keep your
That's how I was
product
when I
straight."
started. I was just like,
Yes.
I don't. And then when I was having my associate, like Ricky, who you work with up in New
Oh, yeah.
York,
Yep. Hi,
when
Ricky.
Ricky is my associate photographer in New York City. He also does all our editing and ordering of our products, and he works closely with Karla, because I was just like, Karla, I don't want to be the go-between guy. Ricky does our ordering. You're going to talk to him.
Yep.
And when we have issues and stuff, but like, what was with talking about Ricky is just having a place where it's like he has a one-stop shop to go get all of our products, instead of like,
Yeah.
hey, Ricky, here's your database of when you go and buy this, you got to get it from here, and you go and buy this, you got to get it from here, and it's a
Yeah.
login for every place you're going to. It's just one login, one
Right?
payment, one monitoring or everything.
You have one person that you talk to, right? Like,
Yes.
it's yeah, so there's so many people that come and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, I am so thankful to have found you. I'm so excited to have, like, a one-stop shop. You guys do it all. It's amazing. Thank you. I love having a direct sales rep, so I'm not, like, either not having a phone answered, or I'm on the call for the next available caller, or you have no
For
idea
30
who's on
minutes
the other
before
line of the
somebody answers,
phone."
and then they answer the phone and it loses connection. And you're
Yeah,
like, what?
yeah, like, exactly. So it's fun to see, it's like I'm talking to these people, onboarding them, and you just hear a like a sigh of relief, like, "Oh, this is so nice that have that one place to go
Well,
to."
and
Oh,
I will
man.
attest too that there's something to be said in the customer sense. And again, I'm going to brag on you guys for a little bit, but it's just like, when you come in, if I have a package that's like, we've had this happen, it's just like it shipped a week ago, Karla. Usually it takes 2 days to get to my places. It's been sitting at the warehouse in Cincinnati, Ohio, or whatever. What do? You guys will actually be the one to call the shipper and get it
Yeah.
figured out for us instead of me having to spend, because I've tried calling DHL and I spend an hour on the phone waiting to get a hold of somebody. But you guys probably, it sounds like you have a direct line to somebody or
We
whatever.
may or may not have a different number.
There you go. But I
Customer
mean, but
service
even
line.
when I get to the direct, like the line that I call, I'm talking to somebody and it's just like they're not familiar with what we do. And
Yeah.
it's just like, and it just becomes messy. But it's nice to have that rep that I can call. I can pick up the phone and you answer, and it's your direct line. It's not like, hey, dial 1 for this and dial 2 for that, or the
Yeah.
worst is like say or enter. You're like, Karla Hansen,
And then it cuts you
did
off.
you say blah blah blah? I'm like, no, Karla. I mean, but you don't
Absolutely.
have that with you. You like
No.
when I call you, you either answer the phone or it's a voicemail that's your voice saying leave a message, and then you usually call me back a couple hours later,
Yeah.
if that. And if you're not and again, I'm a brag, but if you're not there,
Mhm.
somebody else will call me that's in
Yeah.
the office because you're out, because you've been on vacation or whatever. And
Yeah.
everybody's allowed to have a vacation, but somebody else will call me and they
Mhm.
will know, like, it's like you always all everybody up there knows me because it's just like, oh yeah, your stuff is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So but that, I think that's awesome, and having that like layer of customer service is really cool. But here's another thing, and I'm curious to your thoughts. It's not one of my questions that I wrote down originally, but why is it? And I think I know the answer is pretty obvious, but like Grappy is one of the few labs that's out there. And talk to us a little bit about this. My clients can't go and see prices that I pay for their stuff.
Mhm.
And what is the advantage for that? And what, like, talk about like why a photographer should consider that as something that they're like doing or not doing or care or not care about.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so there's a couple of different advantages. Obviously, number one, not having your clients be able to see what the product actually is, that like the price of it is so helpful, because as a photographer, as a business owner, you are able to sell your product, your services, your knowledge, your everything in whatever way you choose, whether it's like a collection of different pieces that you offer. Some people do it as a la carte packages, however you do it, right? Your time, your services, your editing, that's all going into that pricing. And it's just for you to sell that to to your client. It is not their job, I guess, to like, they hired you for that reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some labs out there that they can go to, and I know that people are completely satisfied with that. Many people just love the fact that it's handcrafted in Italy, completely like a unique, personal, custom built product. And a photographer gives them not only the service, but that experience that they had that whole time. The other huge thing is GraphiStudio works with professional photographers because we don't offer editing services and we don't alter your files. So it's also just really important that you're understanding like your workflow and how to prepare your files and what you're uploading. So what you put in, you are getting out in the best quality possible. Um, so if somebody were to just come and try and print something off of their iPhone on like a fine art piece of paper, more than likely not going to be the outcome that they wanted.
Right, right, right. Well, and the other side of it too is what I like about Graphy in the sense of this, and this is something for you. And I say this because of Graphy does this kind of thing. And as you, if you're listening to this podcast, you can something to consider, because what I like is I can send my clients to Graphy's website.
Hmm.
Like I can like, hey, I want to show you this product. If I'm on a Zoom session or something with them, it's just like, because I've had it every now and then. It's very rare, but I've
Hmm.
had people before that are like, hey, I want this specific thing, and I'm like, well, we don't normally do that. However, my lab offers it. I just don't have it on my website, but let me send you this link and I
Yeah.
can show it to you. And they can look at it and see all the different options and stuff, but not see any pricing. And
Mhm.
it's a really big benefit for me as a business owner that I can send my clients to something like that,
Yeah.
to show people, you know.
Yeah.
The other side of it too, and I know a lot of people, and I'd be curious to hear this, is how many people do you know, like out of your clients, is there a percentage of people that drop ship versus do everything in studio and give them their stuff like in person?
I don't have the percentage of drop shipping. We do have quite a few photographers that are starting to offer it now. Um, it's to each their own and how they do it. Like many
No,
people like
I
to
agree.
have.
I like we do drop shipping for our own purposes of
Yeah.
our own reason because we're
Yep.
volume and it's like I don't have time to bring all those people
Exactly.
back in. And we're our studio in New York City. I would not want to drag a 40 by 40 from the
Absolutely not.
studio on a
No.
subway, you
No, not
know.
at all. Well, and there's some photographers where they're like, I mean, downtown LA, I manage California. Like, I'm sure they probably don't want to hop in their car and possibly be stuck in 5-hour traffic to drop off something. Like it just depends on
Right.
who
No,
they are,
totally.
where the
Totally.
client is. Um, it is a bonus to have drop shipping. It's amazing. Honestly, many of my photographers do prefer to have it sent to them directly just because it's exciting for them to receive something that they've created too. And they like to document what they've received because it's really great for marketing photos and putting it on your website and sharing it to your friends and your family and the GraphiStudio community Facebook page. It's fun to have it like that too.
Well, and we've started like we're going back to it with particular clients. Like I did two of them yesterday actually that like
Hmm.
if they order wall art or something that I'm like, "Ooh, I would love to have that on my social media." You know,
Yep.
I offer them like a gift print to bring
Hmm.
them back into the studio because it's a drive for a lot of our people to come back into the studio so that and the trade-off is that they allow us to video them unveiling their wall art
Oh,
and do a little testimonial after it's all said and done,
that's
that we
amazing.
can use on our social media. And but we pick those clients who
Hmm.
we want to do that with because like you know if you're just coming in to get a matte print, like I don't need to feature that on my website or my social media. Nothing against the matte prints, it's just
Yeah.
like I actually had a conversation with somebody the other day. It was just like, I see that in your social media, you post a lot of clients that and all they're getting are matte prints. Maybe you should post the wall art and the other
Hmm.
bigger products that they're getting. Because in my mind, if I was your potential client, I would think all I have to buy from you is matte prints, you
Yeah,
know?
that's fair. That's fair. And it's a show of variety.
Yeah. So,
And
but
to
I
see the
want,
packaging of it all. It's kind
yeah.
of fun to see the different type of stellar packaging that they offer with everything.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that's kinda cool about the Graphy drop shipping site type of thing, and it goes back to the website where clients could because you guys put Graphy all over the packaging, but it doesn't bother me that Graphy's all over the packaging because they can go to the
Mhm.
website and just see all the cool products you have, but they can't see the pricing. There was other
Yeah,
places that I had that were overseas that I was using when I first started that their names were on their whatever when it was coming because they had to do customs forms and all that stuff, but if
mhm.
they looked up that company online, they could see what I'm paying for that piece, and people don't
Yeah,
understand markups. And they're going,
yep.
why did you pay this much for it and I paid this much for it? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm running a business. And if I
Right.
sold it to you for the same price I did, I don't make any money. So
Yep. No, I feel that. And like, okay, something else too, and I just have to say this, like one of the biggest misconceptions with Graphy is that shipping is ridiculously
it's not.
expensive.
It's so
It's
not.
Thank you. John, may I ask how much is shipping if you get an album?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's not
$15.
it's so comparable
15.
to anything else that I've ever done, you know? I mean, and
Oh,
here's the other thing, and I will say this, Graphy has a reputation of
mhm,
your wall art is too expensive. And I'm like, when I compared Graphy's wall art compared to other wall art, there wasn't like the price difference wasn't that big. And some
mm,
of it was cheaper. It just depends.
mhm.
And the other thing too is tell the listener what is unique about Graphy's pro wall art when it comes to acrylics, canvases, and metals.
Well, there's a few
depending
different
on
things.
sizes. Like, what's unique about the pricing with that, Karla?
They're all the same.
They're all the
They're
same.
all the same.
They're all the same. So if I
And
order a
eco leather.
24 by 36, it's all the same price. It's across the
It's
board.
crazy. And I know again, same thing with onboarding. Like I'll be talking and they'll be like, what's the size for this Canvas Pro? And I tell them, they're like, oh, well, what about a Metal Pro? And I'm like, same thing. They're like, excuse me, say that again. I'm like, it's the same all the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
And then
And
they're
it
like,
makes it
well,
easy when you're trying to price your stuff too.
oh my
Like
gosh,
as a
so much.
photographer, because like I've seen photographers when I've worked with them that they've like, hey, can you help me with my pricing? And they'll show me their price sheet. And it's like, this is my pricing for canvases. This is my pricing for acrylics.
Oh
This
my
is my
gosh.
pricing for, I'm like, why do you have 3 different prices for the same
I know. And
size
like right
print?
out of that, you're like, I'm confused and scared to look at these. So no, it's
Oh,
awesome. And then drop shipping is an additional $12. And that's
yeah.
just because they have to hide the invoice.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more expensive, but
Yeah.
so affordable.
If you're listening to this and you are a studio high-end luxury photographer, can I just say this? And it's a pet peeve of mine. Don't charge your people shipping if you're drop shipping stuff to them. Incorporate it into the cost of your goods. And if
Absolutely.
they say, I want to drop, can you just drop ship this to me? Absolutely should be your answer.
Yes.
And you're not going to charge an extra whatever price for the drop shipping. Just ship it to them. It's not costing you that much more.
No. Well, and it's already saving you because, that's time out of your day to have them come in, pick up their product. It's a lot. Whether you're drop shipping or having them come and pick it up, you have to figure out and factor in time and money regardless. So I agree with you.
So how do you think, let's change gears a little bit here.
Okay.
We'll go back to some products here in a minute, specific products, but how do you think offerings should change depending on your genre? Because like there's a wide variety of genres out there. So if like I'm a
Hmm.
boudoir photographer and listening to
Yeah.
this, I mean, what products am I going to offer differently than if I'm a dog photographer like me? And then to take it another step further, like what would I do if I mean, would you even recommend different products for outdoor photographers versus indoor photographers that are doing the same style of photography?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've never really thought about outdoor to indoor. Um, so when I see people's websites, like I said, when I'm onboarding or when we're just chatting about products that they want to offer, I really want to get down to like, what are you looking to offer for your clients? And so many of our products can be used for so many different disciplines. We have an album known as the Original Wedding Book, and everyone goes, "Oh, no, 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 I don't shoot weddings." And I go, totally okay. That's just what the name of this album is called.
You
This
don't have to
album,
call it the
you
original
don't.
wedding
You
book.
can call it whatever you want. That's just what we
Like
call it.
I call the young book the Lux book, the
Yeah,
Lux album, the
whatever you
luxury
want to
album.
call it. I have one client and she has like all of her packages named after like different towns in Italy to
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, no,
keep
it's
the
cool.
theme in. And you can do whatever you want. But it's honestly down to the photographer and what they're offering. I mean, if I have a boudoir photographer and a pet photographer and they're both telling me that they're looking for an album that only offers 20 pages, immediately I'm going to say one of two albums. I'm going to say, let's look at the Original Wedding Book. Let's look at the Go Book because of the page count and the customizations available. The boudoir photographer might really want like blacks and reds and burgundies and those fun, sexy colors. Or my pet photographer might want more natural colors and vegan friendly options, and they don't want leather, right? They want something completely pet friendly. You can find it all in both of those albums. Like it doesn't really matter what type of photography you do. It's how you are laying it out and making it custom for
Mm,
your client.
mhm. Yeah.
So I just listen to what they want. I mean, same with wall art. There are some things like, what is this wall art going to be of, right? Is it like
Mhm.
a sexy photo that you want in the master bathroom, because if that's the case, then I'm going to recommend metal because it holds up better in high humidity
Right.
clients, right?
You
Like,
don't want a canvas in the bathroom?
yeah, like please don't put canvas or like an Amalfi panel in the bathroom. So yeah, and I just like let's chat, let's get down into it and see like where this is gonna go, what's it gonna be of, like what are those topics that are going to sell for your client. Um, there's a ton. I mean,
Well,
one of
and like for me, you like when we were going into the glass pause stuff that we are now specializing in, where it's under
yeah,
glass and reflection photos and stuff, and it's just like you and I had a conversation, and it's just like I've never offered metal,
mm-hmm.
but that 100% is like it's got to be metal,
You,
right?
it,
I
absolutely.
even tell people I'm like, when I'm selling it, I'm like metal and acrylic are two options. I also offer canvas, but this would look like crap on
It
canvas.
wouldn't
It's
have that same umph and pop that you need for
no,
that
exactly. And so
yeah.
you help me with that. And then like the other thing too is, and this is something to consider when you're picking a lab if you're listening, but um the options that come with that, right? So that there's like you guys have a number of different options for metal prints, like the type of printing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So like speaking of that, let's talk through a little bit. And I know we're kind of going a little all over the
you're okay.
place here, and I'm sorry, but it's taking us down different rabbit trails.
I don't mind at
But
all.
no, you're good. But why would I choose one type of finish versus another if I was a photographer when it comes to like a metal print, for example?
Yeah,
Like what kind of offerings do you guys have? And then why would I choose this over that?
absolutely. So let's just kind of base this on the Metal Pro to be just
Yeah, that's fine.
straightforward.
So define
Um,
for the person that doesn't know Graphy, tell them
yes.
what the Metal Pro is.
Okay, so at GraphiStudio, we have a wall art series known as our Pro line. So we offer Canvas Pro, Acrylic Pro, Metal Pro, Eco Leather Pro, Leather Pro. It continues. That Pro basically means that there is a back panel. It's a monoblock that's sat flush with your wall art piece. And so you don't have to worry about framing it. Like that monoblock panel has hanging tactics in it, and it comes in a variety of different colors and materials. So it's a really great way to customize for your client and have it like all ready to go. You don't have to worry about framing or anything. Does that sound
Yeah,
about
yeah,
right?
no, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um, the other thing with metals is we have so many different finishes, and the finishes are gonna really give it that, like, unique appearance of what that metal is. So, some people are like, "Oh gosh, no, metal is too glossy for me." Well, we have glossy metal finishes, we have a matte metal finish, we have one in between. So, understanding what those different finishes are of the 5 is really gonna help bring that picture to life in the setting that you want it in. One thing that you want to make sure of, and I chat with this about my clients, is like, where is that metal wall art piece going? If it's going to be surrounded by a bunch of lights with like windows that get direct sunlight shining across the way, like all you're going to see is just light reflecting off of it, and you're not going to see that quality print. It might be okay to kind of shift down to our in between gear, which is our semi matte. Um, if you have, I don't know, like a picture of a bright red Ferrari, please don't use a matte metal because it's really gonna take that, like, kick of that color down from that metal car. Like, let's go with glossy on that. Like,
Mm.
let's play around with it and really make that photo come to life, and make sure that the place it's going is going to contribute to bringing that
So
picture to
what
life.
if I was going to do that Ferrari that's red and you say it's going to be on the shiny metal, but it's going to go
Mhm,
into a windowed room in an apartment or something like that, or in a
mhm.
Ferrari dealership where it's going to be in the lobby where a lot of sunlight might hit it. How would you recommend somebody balancing the gloss versus the reflection and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I would just ask them, like, where is this going to be hung up in? Is there going to be direct sunlight on it? And we can kind of maneuver around that. Sometimes if that's the case, I would say, maybe let's take a look at our semi matte, which is in between. So it's not going to completely take that shine out of it, but you're not going to get like the direct light bulb
Right.
reflecting back on it, taking away from that image. But it just sometimes depends. some things to make your vision come true, you have to kind of like give and take a little bit, and maybe we have to find a different place for that or something of that sort. But that's all dependent.
So
Um,
so
yeah.
I'm a photographer. I want to offer metal prints. There's five
Hmm.
different options of different kind of looks and stuff like that. Do
Hmm.
you recommend that I offer five different looks? And if I do, how do I best display those? Do I display five different huge images, or do
Hmm.
I display one metal print that's like the feature hero image in my studio with
Hmm.
smaller samples or something with the different finishes, or
Yeah.
how would you go about that? So first of all, that's a multifaceted question. One, do you recommend offering five if I'm offering metal prints? And two, if I'm offering, even if I'm offering two or three, how would you recommend showing those like, and what would you do so it's not like I have filling my room with just, I mean, some people have limited space. And so
They
how would
do.
you recommend showing
It's
those different
true.
samples?
All right. So number one, I do not feel it be necessary you offer all five finishes. Um, I feel it be necessary that you offer the finishes that you like, the kinds that will fit with your photography, and also understanding what these finishes are. So I'm sorry for the listeners if this doesn't make complete sense, but our five finishes are: we have a glossy, we have a semi matte, and we have a matte. Those are our top three most popular ones. We also have a satin glossy and a satin matte. Satin means that we print directly onto that metal without printing any white down at all. So it kind of gives it this really unique antique style feel. It almost looks more like a sublimation. So it's not going to be as like vibrant and colorful. Most people tend to stay away from those two. So right out of the gate, now you're just narrowed down to three, unless
Mhm.
that those satins like really strike your interest for your style. And then going from there, I always say, fit things in your studio that fit well into the space. Make sure it's sized properly. If you think that you want to just offer one giant statement piece, that's totally fine. If you want to offer a couple different pieces, that's totally fine too. But just because you have that option to your client doesn't mean you have to like have every example of it, because what I recommend is you can offer small tabletop pieces.
Mhm.
So you can get, maybe an 8x6 tabletop piece that shows what the glossy and the matte finish look like. Well, you have a semi matte up on your wall. Not only are they able to see the different finishes, but they're also able to hold something tangible to just feel that quality in their
Mhm.
hands. And then it's even a great way to kind of play around with the different colors and backing finishes. So
Mhm.
you can kind of have a little mini swatch kit there for you. It's kind of a,
Yeah, we do that in our front lobby. We
yeah.
have a little ledge and it's got all these different, now I need more variety. I've got got two canvas, and I had more variety, but some of them went to my
Mm.
sales people, my sales staff, so they had them.
Yeah.
I had a metal and I had acrylic and all that stuff, but I have three leather and
Hmm.
two canvases that are
They're
all on a
so
ledge.
fun.
But the
I
back
love
of them
them.
are all like different and everything, so I can show them like you said. But they're
Yeah.
the 2 inch thick as opposed to like the 1 inch thick or whatever,
Yeah.
and everything. But
It's
that's a
also
great,
a great way to, like, promote tabletops because I think people kind of overlook them,
yeah.
and with Christmas right around the corner, it's a perfect little stocking stuffer if you get,
Yeah.
like, a little 6 by 6.
Yeah, and we use, I mean, all mine are 12 by 8, I think, size. So they're a
Okay.
little bit
Those are good
bigger, but
size,
they're
yes.
still a good tabletop, and
Yeah.
I use them as a selling point of like, this is great on a bookshelf or something like
Mhm.
in your home or on the ledge above your fireplace or whatever, you know. I mean, it's
Yep.
just like a cool little thing to have. But the other thing, like you were saying, as you said, Christmas, I'm sure we'll have this out before Christmas, but maybe not before your print deadline, but
True.
which is coming up pretty quick. But but the thing that I like about them too is they're great little gift prints, like from
Oh,
me.
they're
You
amazing.
know, so if I have somebody that like orders a certain level, or a certain thing, it's like, hey, I want to throw in a gift print for you, and I'll
Yeah.
here are the couple of options. Which one do you want? And they're like, oh, I'll take that with this photo. I'm like, cool, great.
It's
You know,
so
and then it
fun.
just adds value to your clients. You know, it's just like, oh wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And the cost of goods on it are it's if
Exactly.
somebody's spending 5, 6, $7,000 and I'm throwing in a tabletop print, it's not killing me.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
feel like that's awesome because it's a nice, it's a great, like, it's also great for like their desk at work or something
totally.
like that, you know?
Yep, fireplace mantles. It's fun for everything. And like, I don't know. Okay, they're choosing from how many photos that you took that day, and maybe they're like, "Oh, this photo's super cute. Like my dog is licking my face, but I don't want that one giant on my wall." Like, what a great way that's like going to give them all those warm, fuzzy feels when they take a look at this cute little wall art piece that you decided to gift them.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to give them that A+ experience that they
Yeah.
were looking for.
Yeah, no, totally. And we're using it, like I think I said it earlier, we're bringing people in to some of our people. We're offering them to come in so that we can reveal their wall art and use it for
Hmm.
social media. And my enticer is like, hey, if you come and do this, but they have to be at a certain level anyway. But if you come and do
Hmm.
this, we'll offer you a gift print
Yeah,
for your time to come back to the studio and let us film you so we can put it on social media. Because that
totally.
was one of the things we found. And if you're listening, it's something to think about if you're not doing videoing your stuff that you
Hmm.
have in your studio. And a video, like one of the things, because we drop ship everything, we have no clients opening stuff anymore or seeing
Hmm.
their stuff anymore. And there's social proof of what you are offering by doing those things. So like whenever I
Yeah.
get a sample, like Karla knows because I posted it in Graphi's stuff, but I also posted on my business side of my Instagram and Facebook. But when I get a new sample, I pull it out of the box and I do a whole unveiling of it and everything, because it's not just showing it like, hey, like how great is Graphy, but it's look at these cool products that I have and look how great the quality is of them. So
Yeah.
if you're not
Well,
doing
and
that on your social, make sure you guys are doing that.
1,000% use social media, and if you don't know how, we can teach you.
And Graphy does a great job too. Like
Yeah.
Maureen, who is like the head of the US area or whatever and all that stuff, she does a great job of just sharing and all that stuff. And that's the other thing too I really appreciate about like your products is you
Mhm.
have a community where Maureen, like if you always send me, it's like, hey, I got a question about this product, and then you go, just go search for it, or you'll tag
Oh,
me
it's
in a
amazing.
post, and then
That
it'll like,
community Facebook page for GraphiStudio members, if you are a GraphiStudio client and you're not on that, join it now. It's so fun to see like the different content that we've created, Maureen's created, GraphiStudio Italy's created, and then just like seeing what everybody else is making on there.
yeah,
It's so fun because like, okay, so you work with these clients straight away and you drop ship it to them. Okay, well, what about me helping you, helping them? And then I really don't get to see it.
yeah,
It's so fun to see the end products and like the reactions. Are they laughing? Are they crying?
yeah,
Are
yeah.
they shocked? Are they
Well, and
speechless? I
that's the
want to
hard part
see.
for me of drop shipping. That was like
Yeah.
when I decided to do the drop shipping, if you're considering drop shipping, there's pros and cons to it.
Mhm.
It's like the great thing about drop shipping is, you don't have to add it into your schedule again to have somebody come in, which can be inconvenient for you if you're trying to do sessions,
Mhm.
because most people are going to want to come in when you're probably shooting sessions.
Yep.
Or and B, like you got to consider if you're looking at doing drop shipping, like we talked about earlier, consider where your clients are coming from. Our
Mhm.
clients here in Houston could easily come back to our studio and do it. When we first started, we had them come back, but we were waiting sometimes months for people to come and get their stuff, because some of our people come from an hour away, because
Yeah.
Houston is such a big city that
Mhm.
an hour is not a big drive for them. I mean, shoot, like you can drive from one side of the state to the other in 14 hours and still be in the state. So
Yeah.
like when we're driving an hour in Texas, it's just like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's like, driving to grandma's house next door, or whatever. But I just didn't like having them have to come so far after
Yeah.
they've already come so far anyway. So we just drop shipped it to them, and everything is packaged so well with Graphy that I trusted it. That was the other thing. If you're going to drop ship stuff, make sure whoever you're drop shipping it through is got great packaging. Cause I did work with somebody, and I'm not going to say who. Whenever I got their packages for me personally in the studio, it looked like a Mack truck drove over it every single time. And most of the time it wasn't broken or nothing was damaged, but do you want that to be what your client
Your
sees when it
client
shows up
receives
to their house and they're like, "Oh God, what the hell?"
this
That's their
mangy
first impression, and
package.
they're like scared. They're like, "Oh my God," you know.
I know. I know.
But anyway, so that's something to consider. So paper. Let's talk paper, because
Let's talk
paper is
paper.
one of the biggest things that is always so confusing, I think, for a lot of photographers. Because you talk about the 5 different metal print options. Let's talk about paper, and there's 4,000 different paper options. It
There's a
feels like.
lot.
Yeah. So, I can't remember the name of it. It's the one that's kind of satiny and to the feel. It's the
Yeah,
top grade.
graphy lingo, we call it deep matte touch.
Deep matte touch, but it feels like, if you've never felt this before, people, it's like it feels like satin leather. It's like a satiny feel and everything when I touch it. But you guys have don't have a plethora of different options, which is
Mm,
appreciative. But why would I use luster versus matte versus deep matte touch? Like, what should I be considering? What should anybody can be considering when they're picking paper for paper
yeah.
prints?
Yeah. Man, I feel like all of these I've keep going back to. It's
Personal preference.
personal preference. I know. I love helping pick paper type out because you can get really creative with it. Um, Number one, I always love to offer our HD printing. So for albums, we have a luster, we have a glossy, and we have deep matte touch, which is what you use. I want to know, what is that photographer using it for? What's the vibe of the scene that is in it? Is it like a really high-end wedding, or is it like a kid album that they're playing with their dog and their siblings, and the kids are probably going to want to touch it, right? If that's the case, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, deep matte touch all day. Kiddos can touch it. You can wipe it clean with a dry microfiber cloth. It's resistant like that. If you were looking for like I don't know, like more of like an antique style feel or something a little bit more soft, we could even kind of veer us into a different direction and look at like a matted album where we could offer our amazing fine art paper. That one's going to be a lot more delicate to the touch, which I wouldn't recommend for an album where a bunch of kiddos are going to be touching it. We also, again, HD all day. Glossy is an amazing paper too, but again, you need it for the right client. If you have a cute little serene baby session going on and the colors are like wispy pinks and maybe some like teals and greens, please don't put that on glossy paper, right? Like it's really going to take away from that like soft experience you're looking for. Maybe we could veer into an option of like a luster paper, which is a pretty standard photo paper that people know of, and we can put a matte lamination on that to kind of tone it down and make it look soft and sweet. There are a ton. And so everybody, like, if you don't know what paper type to choose, contact your sales rep. We will help you
Right.
out. Number two is we have this material swatch box that is a saving grace. Yes.
Behind me on the floor over here.
Perfect. It just needs to be accessible. That's all. I use mine
Well, no,
every.
I have the ones that I use all the time in my
Oh,
hands right
perfect.
now, showing Karla. They're all
Well,
sitting here readily available, but
yeah,
I bought the whole swatch box, which is overwhelming.
it is overwhelming, but it is fun to see
Yes, it
everything
is.
that
It
we
is. It's
offer.
cool.
Inside that material swatch box is all of the paper types that we offer. So you can see them, you can feel them, you can explain it to your client with the experience of seeing that paper straight away without
Okay.
just having to explain it like I am right now.
Just got to throw this out there. You need to add the metals in there too.
No.
Like a little swatch of
So
metals.
it's a wish list.
There you go.
um all in good time. But yeah, so it's another customization that you can do to bring this album to life, or this folio box to life, and really stand behind your style of photography. It's a little overwhelming to understand all of the paper types. Again, I just say, let's just start with one, maybe two, and we can go from there.
Right.
Um, because
Well, and I'll
it's
say
a lot.
this. I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. I'm sorry, but like,
You're okay.
I think what you're hearing is, when you're picking a lab, pick
Mm-hmm.
some place that can answer these questions for you.
Totally.
Like, that's
Totally.
the thing. I like, that's one of the biggest reasons why I love Graphy. Not because their
Mm-hmm.
products. I mean, your products are amazing, and that's a benefit,
Yep.
obviously, because at the end of the day, I love offering amazing products that like are very unique. You're like your pro wall art. Like when it took me a little bit, to be honest, to get used to it because it's not normal. It's not
Mhm.
like what you would normally see for canvases and stuff like that. But I had a thought in my head at one point that people, because I was taking a while to get used to it, people aren't going to like this.
Mhm.
People don't care. They just want quality and they want awesome. And so when
Mhm.
they come in, they see it, oh, wow, that's unique. That's something I've never seen before. That's what fine
Mhm.
art photography looks like, and prints and all that stuff. And then when you say it's from Italy, they're like, ooh, oh, that's
Ooh.
bougie, and everything. But anyway, and then and then oh, that's printed on leather, and
Yeah. Oh, that one's a fun one.
oh,
That one's so fun to tell people that.
yeah.
I love that.
So because I have some leather prints, eventually I want to get a big gigantic one, but I ordered some samples and they're amazing. But what I was going to go where I was going with that is not only is the print quality and the products awesome themselves, and you guys stand behind your products, which is another thing I appreciate too. Um, but the level of customer service, and when I'm like I've come to you, Karla, countless times of like, hey, I think I want to offer this kind of thing, and I'll go through with Karla what I want it to be, and she'll ask me what the purpose of it is and why I want to do it and blah blah blah, and sometimes she'll talk me out of it. Like recently I came to Carly and I said, all right, I offer all this high-end wall art. I'm trying to think of a way of offering something that's like maybe a little less graded or whatever, but so it's a cheaper price point for an introductory thing so they can have something nice on their wall. You offer your own kind of like canvas wraps and stuff, but then you pointed out it's like really the price point's not different for your cost and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, like you talked me out of it. And I appreciated that because I was just like, okay, I'm just cheapening my product and that's stupid. But I'm glad I had somebody to throw that idea out to.
Well, and also like I want you to open up your product and be like, "Whoa, this
Yeah,
is
no,
cool.
totally,
So
totally. Yeah,
excited." And if
yeah.
I
But
don't think you're gonna have that, then
but
I won't
I what I appreciate where I'm going with that is I appreciate that like I was able to come to you and say, "Hey,
totally.
I'm thinking of doing this," and then you're like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Here's an option." Or
Yep.
like, "No, don't do that. That's stupid."
Mhm.
You wouldn't say that. You never called
Yeah.
me Carla never called me stupid. But
Thank you for clarifying.
she never called me stupid. I said it in my head because I knew I was. But anyway, um but you like you would point me in the right direction. So for example, we have the Sue Bryce portrait box,
Yep.
right? And when I was looking for something, it's just like, hey, I've got some people that just want that entry level type of thing that's maybe not Sue Bryce price point, but maybe a little bit cheaper or like
Mhm.
and less expensive for them or something, but still quality and awesome. And then we went to the portrait box,
The
which
legacy
has got the
box.
smaller mats and all that stuff. But we were able to lower the price point on that for people that were just like, I can't afford this, but I can afford this.
Mhm.
And we don't I know you guys have multiple options for the portrait box, but we offer two, white or
Yep.
black, and that's
Yes.
it. And but then if you get to the Sue Bryce box, then we have all of these options.
I know, I
Like I
know.
mean, here's all the option of colors and things that you can do with it. But
Yeah.
again, it takes it to that next level. So, but I appreciate that about the customer service. So
Absolutely.
I'm like again bragging moment on that part.
Yeah, thank you.
But so if like here real quick on this one, and this is probably going to be the last question, real quick, but as I'm a photographer and I'm new in photography and I'm trying to start my studio and stuff, what kind of advice do you give to people when they're pricing themselves and their product compared to what they're paying for their product?
That is such a great question, and it's probably the most difficult question for us to answer as sales representatives. And the reason being is we don't have that answer for you, right? Like I grew up always, if you don't know the answer, find it out. I don't know, but I'll get back to you on that. That one's a really tricky one. We always recommend, work with a business coach, see what your business coach is telling you for how to price out your products. And again, keep in mind, it's your time, it's your editing, it's your resources. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just that product itself that you're selling. Um, Also, depending on the area, you don't want to completely price yourself out or sell yourself too cheap for it. Like, you're there to make money and represent yourself and build a business. And you can't do that if you're going to lowball yourself and not have people pay the price for this quality product that you deserve to get paid for. So it's really just, doing that first business step and understanding, like, how am I going to build this business and bring in revenue for myself, and working with a business coach or going to seminars and workshops. Those things are so readily available that I always encourage them to go to that. I wish I had a magic 8 ball that could tell you those answers that are going to, get everything flying off the shelves right away, but I don't have that answer. Um,
When I think the part of it too is, and as you said that, it made me think like pricing for somebody like me is different than pricing for somebody that's like in podunk backwoods, whatever,
that too,
because
like,
you might not have your income base might dictate your
mhm,
pricing. It's like what
yep,
I might offer the same thing for a markup of whatever, but if you try to do it that way, you'll never sell anything.
totally.
And
Well, and on top of it, some people will do packages or collections or
right.
however they say it. And that includes, maybe 3 wardrobe changes and an album of X amount of pages and a
Mhm.
piece of wall art and digitals, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's one collection. Some people do a la carte, right? Where it's like right out of the gate, they have a 1 hour session and they get digitals and then they can go home with 5 prints. But, like, you're just paying for anything else a la carte
Right.
after
Right.
that.
Right.
Like, I don't know how you're going to structure that. And
Yeah.
that's an
Well, and I
internal
and I I like what
decision.
you say too. It's just like getting with a business coach or somebody that's in the business that's doing it
Absolutely.
successfully. Like I work with people all the time that are asking me, you know, hey, I'm just getting started. Give me some advice, or I'm happy to help you.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But pricing seems to be one of the biggest things. I would say, I would piggyback on what you're saying. One of the things I say with people that are just starting, price yourself at a place that you feel a little bit uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but not ridiculously uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And as you start selling, raise those prices. I remember when I first started, like I put myself in a place where I was like, I'm not making what I really want to make on this product or these
Mhm.
things, but I put myself where I felt comfortable selling it at that price. And then after I
Totally.
sold it a few times, I raised all my prices up $100. And
Yeah.
then I did a few weeks of rate, and then I raised it up $100 and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Cause you know, nobody remembers what my prices were. And if somebody came back and said, hey, well, your prices were whatever, I'm like, I'm going to honor the previous price with you, whatever,
Totally.
because you remembered it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would, and then I got to a point where I was just like, okay, I think I'm at my sweet spot.
Mhm.
I felt like there was some diminishing returns happening on some of the things of just like, okay, I'm not getting the sales that I used to get. So I think I've overpriced myself. So let's back
Yeah.
off a little bit. Um, and now
Well, and there's so
and I
much.
haven't raised my prices. We've like done some tweaking, but I haven't really raised my prices. And the tweaking comes with, hey, I'm offering a new product. So
Yeah.
sometimes I got to adjust the other products to kind of make sense. But I haven't
Totally.
really raised my prices in over a year. And, and that's with inflation,
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
um,
Graphy hasn't changed our pricing in over 9,
and I
and
was
that's
just
with
gonna
inflation.
yeah,
So,
and that's
I get
something
it.
I was gonna say. It's just like you guys have done pretty good at just staying even keel with where things are, even
Mhm.
with what's going on worldwide, where I know other
Yeah.
places I've gotten emails from labs that I used to use. It's like, we regret to inform you we're raising all our
Oh,
prices
I
20% or
know.
something, and it's just like, well, you're either taking a 20% hit or you're going to raise your price 20%, and that could
Yeah.
affect who might buy from you, so
Absolutely.
I
Everything is
appreciate
just
that.
there's so many business decisions that have to be made in pricing. I mean, are you renting a studio? Do you own a studio? Do you have a studio? Are you planning to buy a studio? There's so many things that
Right,
are
right,
taking into
right.
consideration to
And that's
find
why
your
you go and
pricing.
hire somebody that knows more than you do. And like if you
Or
I mean
and just educate yourself, like, never stop learning about
yeah,
anything.
I
There's
don't
so
ever stop.
No, don't ever stop. And so take advantage of different trade shows and seminars and podcasts and YouTube channels that will help you out with all of that.
Cool, cool.
Read a book.
Yeah. Well, Karla, it's been awesome having you. Thank you so much for giving me some time. I think you shared a lot of information that can be helpful to people, even if they're not Graphy users. But if you want to become a GraphiStudio product user, how would somebody go about doing that? Because you have a very different process than most labs where it's just like I can just go to you and just start purchasing stuff. How would I go about becoming a GraphiStudio product person?
Yeah, so honestly, the easiest thing is if you go to www.graphistudio.com, you will be able to fill out an inquiry. And based on the information that you submit, mainly just your address, that will automatically send a notification to the sales rep in said region. So we will reach out to you and we will gather information about you, your business, products that you're looking for. It's maybe like a 10-minute onboarding call. One, we want to make sure that like all of your details are correct and your address and your phone number and everything. Two, we just want to get to know more about you and your business and how we can assist you. So once we have that set up and activated for you, we give you all of the resources necessary to get logged in. We love doing follow-ups, and like you have that direct sales rep contact information and resources available to you at the touch of a button or the pickup of a phone.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, I
Yeah.
mean, the community is a great place too, because it's like if you have questions and you know, people in the community are very helpful as well with different
Yeah.
things and stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, just I think the community page is something definitely I encourage all of our starting onboarding photographers to just go there and take a look, because you can really go down a wormhole with different products you can find and
right, yeah,
videos Maureen has posted, and it's
yeah.
a fun group to be a part of.
I would caution anybody that's going to Graphy Studio to just try to be careful of not the next shiny object, because there's a I mean, how many products do you guys have?
We have a lot. Uh,
If
we
you
have
were to
more coming quite soon, actually. I don't know if you've seen anything about the Tramontina collection recently,
yeah, yeah, I
but
have.
that will be releasing soon. So
But
we'll add
But I
more.
mean, you're like, let's say you have, I think it's more than that, but 50 products. It's like there's 50 different shiny objects, and you don't need 50 products in your
You
studio.
really don't. Please don't
And you're going
offer
to
that
overwhelm
to.
your clientele.
Oh
You
my
really are.
gosh. That would be a lot. I mean, you might as well have my job at that point if you
Right.
know like what
I
all
would
of
recommend
the
if you're starting out in your studio, have 2 to 3 like strong products that you really
Yeah.
like, and then you can always add. And we test things every now and then. Like I'll be honest, I tested the storybook,
Hmm.
and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, and it's become one of our better sellers. And
Yeah.
so,
It's a
which
that's
kind of
amazing.
surprised me in a way, because like for what I do, I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's a quality book. Don't get me wrong, but it just
Yep.
surprised me for what I do that people gravitate to it a little
Yeah.
bit more than the album. I think we sell more of those than we do actually
Yeah.
the
It's
albums.
interesting because again, it's just like not only do you want to offer, like what do you want to offer, but like what does your client want?
Yeah,
Like that's
and
the
you don't
perfect
know until
album
you
to
test
sit
it,
on like
you
an
know, and
adorable
so
little coffee table.
yeah, and it's you don't know until you test it, and then
Yeah.
like so
Well,
I'll buy a little sample, and then I'll put it out there and put it on my price list, and if nobody buys it after a while, then I'm like, no, that's not the one I want to use.
yeah,
So
and be willing to invest in trying out different samples because you don't know what that quality is gonna look like until you have it for
yeah,
yourself.
you don't need to
Whether
buy
that be like
samples every
test
month,
prints or
people.
seriously, but and update them. Have updated samples. I mean, we recommend that you update your samples like every 1 to 2 years because they get used. They get used a lot
Yeah.
and they bring in a lot of revenue for you.
Yes.
It's one of the first things people see when they're making that decision. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lesson learned, another thing with the samples is always put a certificate of authenticity on the back of it with the client's name, so that when you do
totally.
decide to upgrade those things, you can contact that client, remember who that client is, and
Yes.
say, hey, I've got this big wall art piece that I have had as a sample. I want to offer it to you as a discount if
Yeah,
you are interested in it. And
absolutely.
most time they'll take you up on it, because you're going to I offer it some ridiculous price, and it usually pays for the new thing that I'm
Well,
getting.
yeah, that's all you need. You just gotta break even so you have that new shiny sample up on your
Yeah,
wall.
right, right. Well,
Absolutely.
Karla, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. And if you know you bring some new clients here and all that stuff to you, that would be amazing. And
I
you'll get to know
appreciate you.
Karla, whether you know Karla or one of the other fine, amazing people in the U.S. office or abroad, if you're abroad, because you guys ship pretty much everywhere, right? Like worldwide for the
We
most
ship to
part.
about 61 different countries at the moment, so
Okay.
not quite everywhere. But yes.
So yeah, like the majority of stuff. And then does the shipping change a whole lot for those countries? Speaking of shipping?
That is an amazing question. It does change. Different countries have different taxes than the United
Yeah.
States does. So if you're a United States citizen, you might have to pay some VAT tax, for example. If you're in Europe, there might be some duty charges. So we work with the team over in Italy, and then DHL will work directly with that client for extra
Cool. Cool.
prices.
Well, thanks so much, Carla.
You're
Appreciate you.
welcome.
Thank you for being such an amazing rep and being an
Oh,
amazing person for me to call and vent when I have to vent or ask questions when I have to, and being patient with me when I have questions, because
of course.
sometimes I feel like my questions are dumb, but they're not.
Nonsense. No, I appreciate you so much. You are such a pleasure to work with, and I love seeing everything that you create. You and Ricky both. So thank you very much.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again for being on here, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
All right. Sounds good, Jem. Bye.